Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Hey you, still saving the world one spreadsheet at a time? That was the first thing she said. No apology. No mention of the years she vanished. No reference to the last thing she told me. You were never enough for me, Byron. Just that line, like we were picking up from a paused conversation. I should have hung up, but I didn't. She sounded too casual, too calm. Like the 15 years between us had been a nap, and not a total erasure of my self-worth. My palms were sweating, the phone slipping between my fingers. I was in line at the DMV, of all places. Number B418. I never heard them call it. I walked out, still listening. She laughed. Laughed. You're quiet. Still that shy guy from Indiana? She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't ask if I ever remarried. She didn't ask if I was okay after she obliterated me with her silence, after she drained our savings and disappeared without even a note on the fridge. All she said next was, I need to tell you something. It's complicated. And just like that, I was sucked into it again. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My throat was tight, and I was shaking in the parking lot like it was snowing in July. I hadn't heard Darcy's voice since the spring day she slammed our front door with a red suitcase and a stiff middle finger. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She told me she was in love with someone else's husband, a man she'd met at some photography retreat. He was older, more alive, she'd said, and that he made her feel like someone new. That was the last memory I had of her, walking away, heels clicking like gunshots on the driveway, while I stood barefoot, holding a coffee mug I'd made her in ceramics class. I'd spent years in therapy convincing myself her return would never happen, that she was a ghost, a wound that would never speak again. And yet, there she was, alive, breezy, talking to me like she just borrowed my charger. I should have blocked her. Instead, I whispered, "What do you want?" And her answer? It would flip everything I believed upside down. I expected her to ask for money, or maybe forgiveness, which would have been rich. But she didn't ask for either. Instead, Darcy said something that knocked the air clean out of my lungs. He died, Byron. Mason died. 3 weeks ago. Mason, the married man. The man she threw our life away for. The man whose name I had scrubbed from my brain like graffiti. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to think about him. And now she was saying he was dead, just like that, like she was telling me about a sale at the grocery store. My grip tightened around the phone, and for a few seconds, I said nothing. Not because I was sad, but because I didn't know what emotion was supposed to come next. Relief? Bitterness? Satisfaction? I felt none of it. Just confusion. And a rising sense of something I hadn't tasted in years, dread. I'm sorry to hear that, I muttered, though it felt like a lie. I wasn't sorry. I didn't even know what sorry would feel like for a man who helped torch my marriage, my confidence, my entire sense of self. She sighed on the other end. It's more complicated than that. I need to talk to you in person. I almost laughed. The audacity. After all these years, she wanted to meet? Darcy, you don't get to show up 15 years later and act like this is some bad episode of daytime TV. I'm not acting like anything, she replied sharply. Look, something happened after he died. Something about you. About the past. I felt sick. About me? There was a pause. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then her voice dropped, quieter now. He left something behind. It's about what happened before I left you. Things you don't know. And I swear, I didn't know either. Not until now. I hated how my heart started racing. I hated that part of me still wanted something from her, even if it was just clarity, closure, something I could file away to finally understand why she left so easily. I don't want to dig up ghosts, I said, trying to steady my voice. You made your choice. And now I'm asking you to give me 10 minutes to explain what really happened back then. What Mason never told me. What I never told you because I didn't even know it myself. I paced around my living room, the silence in my house pressing against my ribs. 15 years of no contact. 15 years of trying to be okay. And now she wanted to open that door? I'm not promising anything, I muttered. You want 10 minutes? Fine. But not at my house. Not anywhere near it. I understand, she said. There's a little diner off Route 7. Margot's. Tomorrow. Noon. I hung up before I could agree or refuse. But the next morning, I was there. And nothing could have prepared me for what she brought with her. She didn't just come with memories. She came with a sealed envelope, addressed to me, in Mason's handwriting. And inside was a secret that made everything I thought I knew about my marriage feel like a carefully crafted lie. The envelope was yellowed at the edges like it had been handled too many times, maybe even wept on. Her hands shook when she gave it to me across the tiny formica table at Margot's diner. I hadn't spoken a word since I walked in. I just sat there, hands in my lap, jaw clenched so tight it ached. She looked older, of course, but not wrecked like I'd imagined. She still wore that same infuriating air of calm. A woman who had shattered me and still ordered black coffee like her conscience was clean. I picked up the envelope slowly. "This isn't some apology letter, is it?" I asked, my voice sharp and brittle. "No," she said, folding her hands together. "He wrote it before he died, but he didn't give it to me. His wife did." That caught me off guard. "Evelyn?" Darcy nodded. She found it tucked in a manila folder with insurance papers. It had your name on it. She said it felt wrong not to give it to you. I turned the envelope over. It just said Byron. Nothing else. Not even a last name. As if he knew exactly which Byron would end up holding this letter. I didn't want to open it. Not in front of her. Not while her eyes scanned my face like she still had a right to see what I felt. But I did. The first line nearly made me drop it. "Byron, if you're reading this, it means I've finally stopped lying to myself. And to everyone else." I blinked, trying to steady my breath. Darcy sipped her coffee like we weren't standing on the edge of a cliff. "You don't know me, but I know you. I watched you more times than I should admit, and not out of jealousy, but guilt. I didn't steal your wife. I manipulated her. I knew exactly what I was doing, and it wasn't about love. It was about revenge." My stomach turned. "You were collateral damage in a story that started long before Darcy ever met you. A story involving my brother, your father." I looked up at Darcy, my fingers frozen on the paper. "My father." Her face had lost all its color. "I didn't read the whole thing," she said quietly. "I couldn't." I kept reading, my pulse thudding against my ears. "Your father ruined my family. You were a kid then. You wouldn't remember. But my dad lost everything after your father's company took over his contracts. My mother had a breakdown. I lost them both within months. I thought if I could get close to someone from his world, take something he loved, it would hurt the way I hurt." He hadn't even wanted Darcy. She was just a piece in some twisted revenge game. My marriage, my pain, my sleepless nights. It was all just part of a plan I never even knew I was in. I sat there, trembling, the letter shaking in my hands. Darcy didn't say a word. She just looked out the window, her eyes glassy. Maybe with regret. Maybe just exhaustion. "So, you were," I stopped myself. "You weren't even really in love with him?" She turned to me slowly. "I thought I was. Until I found that letter. Then I realized. I was just part of someone else's bitterness. Used. And so were you." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the absurdity of it all cracked something in me. 15 years. 15 years thinking I wasn't enough, that she left me because I was too quiet, too safe, too boring. And it turns out, none of it had anything to do with me at all. I folded the letter and slid it back into the envelope. My hands were numb. "So why tell me now?" I asked. "Why now after all this time?" She looked down at her coffee, stirring it with the edge of her spoon. "Because I thought you deserved the truth. And because Evelyn gave me something else." "What?" Darcy hesitated. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out another envelope. This one wasn't from Mason. It was addressed to both of us. And it was in my father's handwriting. I didn't touch the second envelope right away. My hand hovered over it like it might burn me. I hadn't seen my father's handwriting in nearly a decade. He died in a nursing home after a long decline into confusion and silence. A man whose legacy was built on discipline, ambition, and secrets no one ever dared to question. Growing up, he didn't hug. He didn't explain things. He made decisions and expected you to catch up. The idea that he had written something meant for me and Darcy, a woman he never liked, never trusted, felt impossible. It cracked something open in my chest that I hadn't let myself feel in years. Darcy didn't say anything. She just pushed the envelope closer, then leaned back in the booth, as if it no longer belonged to her. I slid my finger under the flap and unfolded the letter with more hesitation than I'd ever felt in my life. And when I began to read, the room around me blurred into nothing. "Byron, if this finds you, it means things I tried to bury have come to light. I failed in many ways, especially as a father. You only ever saw the version of me I thought I needed to be. I built walls, and I forced you to live behind them." That was already more emotional honesty than he'd ever managed in person. There's something you need to know about Darcy, about Mason, and about why I did what I did all those years ago. Mason's father wasn't just a competitor. He was my friend, my closest friend, until he betrayed me. I looked up at Darcy, whose eyes were locked on the napkin dispenser. She hadn't heard this either. We started our businesses together, split everything 50-50ths, until the day I found out he was stealing contracts, underbidding with knowledge I had trusted him with. It cost me millions, nearly the company. So I ruined him. I had to. He left town in disgrace. I never thought I'd see any of them again. That lined up with what Mason had written. But then the letter took a turn. Years later, when I met Darcy, I recognized her last name. I knew who she was, and I was ashamed of what I planned to do. I thought if I could keep her away from you, I could spare you from the chaos. I tried to break you up. I tried to make you see how reckless she was. I felt heat rising in my neck. But she loved you. I see that now, even if she didn't know how to show it. I pushed too hard, and she pushed back, in the worst way. The letter ended with something I didn't expect. If Darcy is reading this too, I'm sorry. I misjudged you, and I judged Byron through the lens of my own guilt. I never should have made my son pay for the sins of two angry men. If there's anything left between you, don't let my bitterness poison it. That's not the legacy I want. I finished reading and couldn't feel my fingers. My father, the man who never once said, "I love you," without sounding like it was a corporate memo, had written something so raw it left me shaking. I didn't know what to say. I just folded the letter, slowly, and set it on the table like it was made of glass. Darcy broke the silence first. I didn't know about any of that. Mason never told me the full story. Not about his father, not about yours. I thought I was in control. Turns out I was just a pawn like you. I studied her face. There were lines there that hadn't been there before. Not just age, guilt, maybe regret. It was hard to tell with her. I used to think she was an open book. Now I realized she was a novel written in invisible ink. So what now? I asked. You give me this, and then what? You disappear again? Her eyes met mine, and this time, there was no guard in them. Just exhaustion. I didn't come back to fix things, she said. I came back to tell the truth, and to ask you something you're going to hate. I braced myself. What? She took a breath. Mason had a daughter. A teenager. Her mother's gone. Evelyn can't take her. She wants to meet you. I stared at her, stunned. Why? Darcy hesitated. Then she said the one thing I was least prepared to hear. Because she might be yours. I must have stared at Darcy for a full minute without blinking. The diner's noise faded into the background. The clink of forks, the hum of conversation, even the old jukebox near the door playing some forgotten country tune. Everything blurred into white noise after those 6 words. Because she might be yours. My jaw clenched, my chest tightened, but no words came out. I could barely breathe. You're lying, I finally muttered. You have to be. Darcy didn't flinch. She didn't argue or get defensive. That scared me more than if she had. She just nodded slowly, her fingers folding and unfolding her napkin like she had rehearsed this part 100 times. She's 15, Byron. Born 8 months after I left. My mind scrambled to do the math. 15 years ago. 8 months. It fit. Too well. But it made no sense. You told me you were already with Mason. I said, my voice low, bitter. You said you chose him. That it wasn't a mistake. So which is it? Was she some love child? Or just a miscalculation in your little escape plan? Darcy flinched at that, and for a second, I saw her age all at once. I didn't know. I assumed she was Mason's. I didn't want to believe otherwise. But when he died, Evelyn told me they'd had problems, fertility issues. That Mason had gone through treatment years before we met. It didn't work. My stomach dropped. I did the math. Then I did the test. She slid a folded paper across the table. A DNA test. The kind people take when they're desperate for answers or for a lifeline. I picked it up with shaking hands, barely able to read the words. Probability of paternity, 99. 97%. My name. Her name. I suddenly felt like I was underwater. Why didn't you tell me before? I asked, barely able to form the words. You had 15 years to tell me. Darcy looked me straight in the eye. Because I was ashamed. Because I ruined you once, and I didn't think you'd want anything from me again, not even a child. And because I didn't think I deserved to ask for help. But she's asking now. She wants to meet you. I sat back, my breath caught in my throat. She knows who I am. She knows of you. She knows her mother was married before. She knows you might be her father, and she wants to talk to you. Just once. It was too much. My thoughts collided in a whirlwind of anger, grief, and something else I couldn't name. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was legacy. It was blood. It was a girl growing up thinking someone else was her father, while I sat alone for over a decade thinking I'd lost everything. I stood up abruptly. I need time. I can't. This is too much. Darcy didn't try to stop me. She reached into her purse and slid a small photo across the table. A teenage girl with dark curls and brown eyes that looked eerily familiar. I didn't pick it up. I couldn't. She's at the community center on Grove, Darcy said quietly. Art class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Her name's Lila. I didn't name her after you. That was a coincidence. But maybe not. I walked out of that diner with the letter, the test results, and a name I'd never heard before echoing in my head like a haunting melody. Lila. She might be mine. And if she was, then everything I thought I had lost 15 years ago hadn't disappeared. It had just been hidden. Until now. I told myself I was just going to drive past. Just once. No stopping, no talking. I just wanted to see her with my own eyes. This girl named Lila who might share my blood, but had no idea who I really was. But that lie didn't even make it halfway down the street. My hands had a mind of their own, pulling the car into the cracked parking lot outside the Grove Street Community Center like it was fate and not foolishness steering me. It was Thursday afternoon. Kids were trickling in, backpacks slung over one shoulder, some holding sketch pads, others laughing in pairs. I stayed in the car for 10 minutes, maybe more, watching from a safe distance like a coward. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Maybe some lightning bolt of clarity or a sign that said, yes, this is what you should do with the rest of your broken life. But it never came. So I got out. Inside, the air smelled like glue sticks and old paint. A woman with thick glasses pointed me toward the art room. You picking someone up? She asked. I nodded too quickly. My mouth had dried up. My heart felt like it was thudding through my shirt. The hallway outside the classroom had one of those long, skinny windows in the door, and when I looked through it, my entire body went cold. She was sitting near the back, hunched over a canvas, completely focused. Brown curls tied into a loose ponytail, pencil smudges on the side of her hand. Even from where I stood, I saw the way her eyebrows furrowed when she concentrated. I'd seen that look before, in the mirror, on late nights working on software code back when I still believed I had a future. She looked like me. And then, as if she felt me thinking it, she looked up. Her eyes locked on mine through the glass, and time folded in on itself. I froze, caught in the act of being something between a stranger and a father. She tilted her head slightly, confused but not afraid. Her lips parted like she was about to say something, but the door opened before either of us could react. You need something? The instructor asked, stepping between us. I mumbled something about the wrong room and walked away fast. My knees felt like jelly. My breath came in uneven bursts. I pushed out into the parking lot and leaned against the side of my car, ashamed of myself. Ashamed for showing up like a ghost in someone else's life. But before I could leave, I heard the door behind me open. Hey, it was her voice. Lila's. I turned, and there she stood on the concrete, one hand on the strap of her messenger bag, eyes squinting in the sunlight. Her voice was soft but firm. Do I know you? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat locked up. I felt like I was choking on 15 years of silence. She took a few cautious steps closer. I saw you watching the class. Are you with my mom or something? I wanted to lie. It would have been easier, cleaner, but I'd done enough hiding for a lifetime. I knew your mom, I said, my voice barely audible. A long time ago. She looked at me strangely. Not scared, not suspicious, just curious. She had no idea she might be speaking to her father. No idea how fragile the man in front of her was, how close he was to falling apart. I'm Lila, she said, extending her hand like we were at a polite brunch and not standing in the middle of a cracked parking lot full of ghosts. I took her hand gently. I'm Byron. She smiled. Cool name. Not a lot of Byrons these days. I laughed, too quickly. Yeah, I get that a lot. The pause that followed felt like the earth holding its breath. Well, I should get back in there, she said. Nice meeting you. She turned to go, then looked back. You going to be around again? I nodded without thinking. Maybe. And just like that, she disappeared through the double doors, leaving me with a truth I hadn't been ready to face. She didn't need me, but I suddenly needed her more than I could admit. I told myself I wouldn't go back, that seeing her once was enough, that it was a fluke, a misstep in an otherwise carefully controlled fall. But 2 days later, I was parked outside the community center again, this time 30 minutes early, rehearsing lines I'd never actually say. It didn't feel like stalking, it felt like hoping. And when the door opened and Lila stepped out alone, earbuds in, walking slowly like she was waiting for something, I cracked. "Hey," I called out before I could stop myself. She turned, surprised, but not annoyed. "Hey, Byron, right?" Hearing my name from her mouth did something strange to me. It pulled a wire tight in my chest I didn't even know was there. I nodded, hands shoved deep into my jacket pockets. I was in the area. Thought I'd say hi. "Again," she grinned. "You hang around art centers often?" "Only the ones where mysterious teenagers look like they could take over the world with a pencil." She laughed at that, and the sound nearly buckled me. We walked to a nearby bench, just outside the mural wall where kids had painted sunflowers and rocket ships. She pulled out a granola bar and offered me half. I declined, afraid my hands might shake if I reached for it. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. She seemed at ease around me. That made everything harder. "So," she said, chewing, "you knew my mom in college or something?" I stared at a crack in the pavement. I could have said yes and left it there, but the lie tasted bitter already. "No," I said. "We were married. A long time ago." She froze. "Wait, what?" I nodded slowly. "Your mom and I, we were together for a while. Before Mason." Her entire face shifted. She looked away, pulling her knees up onto the bench. She never said that. She probably had her reasons. Lila was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, she asked, "Were you nice to her?" The question nearly broke me. Not because it was hard to answer, but because of what it said about what she'd seen in her life. "I tried," I said. "I wasn't perfect, but I loved her. I loved her enough to believe lies when they sounded better than the truth." Her head tilted slightly, studying me. "Did she leave you for him?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, she did." Lila didn't look shocked, just sad. She always said she used to be someone else, that she hurt people when she was younger. I thought she meant something small, like stealing or partying. "She might have meant me," I whispered. A gust of wind blew through the lot. She pulled her hoodie tighter. I wanted to reach out, to tell her everything, but something in me held back. "She said Mason wasn't my biological dad," she continued, eyes on the sidewalk now. "She told me right before he died. I think she was trying to fix something before it was too late. She didn't say much, just that there was someone else. Someone she'd loved, maybe still loved." I blinked hard. "And you're okay with that?" Lila shrugged. "Not really, but I don't get to choose the story. I just get to live in the middle of it." We sat in silence again, and then I took a breath so deep it hurt. "Lila, I need to tell you something else, and I don't expect you to be okay with it, or even believe me right away." She turned to me, cautious. "I didn't just know your mom. I didn't just love her. According to a test she gave me, I'm your biological father." Her expression didn't change at first, just blank stillness, like the words took a second to break through whatever wall she'd built up. Then her lips parted, but no sound came out. She stared at me, really stared. "That's not a joke." "No." She stood up abruptly, pacing, breathing through her teeth. "So you've been sitting here, chatting, knowing that? Watching me? For how long?" "I didn't know how to tell you," I said quickly. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't even know you existed until last week." She stopped pacing, eyes burning holes through me. "And what do you want from me now?" I shook my head. "Nothing. Just to be near you. To know you, if you'd let me." She laughed, not kindly. "You show up out of nowhere, drop a DNA bomb on me, and want to play catch in the backyard or something?" I lowered my gaze. "No, I just wanted a chance to be something other than a stranger." Lila looked at me, eyes brimming but not spilling. She exhaled hard. "You should have stayed a stranger. That would have been easier." Then she turned and walked away. And for the second time in my life, I watched someone I loved walk away into the sunset while I stood frozen in the ruins. 3 weeks passed. Not a word from Lila. I didn't text, didn't call, didn't show up at the community center again. I knew I had dropped a wrecking ball into her world, and the least I could do was give her space to decide whether she wanted to sift through the rubble or walk away for good. Every day that passed without hearing from her felt like a silent confirmation that I had lost her before I ever really had a chance. And maybe I deserved that. Then, one quiet Sunday morning, I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I hadn't even told Darcy where I lived. I opened it slowly, and there she was. Lila, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big, hair in a messy bun, holding a crumpled brown paper bag. "Hi," she said simply. I stepped aside. I couldn't speak. She walked in like she'd done it 100 times, dropped the bag on the kitchen table, and sat down. "It's banana bread. I bake when I'm stressed." I sat across from her, trying to breathe normally. "I'm not here because everything's okay," she began. "It's not. I'm confused. I'm angry. And I don't know what this means for me or for you. But I've had time to think. And the truth is, you didn't ask for this any more than I did." I nodded, afraid that if I said anything, I'd mess it up. She looked at me, really looked, and added, "I don't know what a dad is supposed to be. But I figure if you're willing to show up, we can start with that." I swallowed hard, tears threatening, and managed a soft, "I'll show up. For whatever you need." She smiled, small, unsure, but real. "Then let's figure it out." We sat for hours that day, talking, asking questions, telling truths. The silence that once felt unbearable now felt like peace. Lila wasn't a replacement for the years I'd lost, and I wasn't a fix for the wounds she carried. But we were something new, two people scarred by the same storm, finally choosing to walk out of it together. And for the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel like a man stuck in the past. I felt like someone building a future. Thank you for staying with us through this 8-part journey on Reddit Confessions. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Would you have shown up for Lila or walked away? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more raw, emotional, and unforgettable stories.